Stumbling across the esteemed Dr. McDougall's work in 2015, reading the Starch solution, it changed my life. And even though I don't follow the Starch solution to a letter now, my own philosophy when it comes to nutrition is incredibly similar to this day. Any criticisms I've voiced of the Starch solution on this channel over the last couple of years have been incredibly minor compared to the mountain of arguments that I agree with Dr. McDougall on. However, that said, what I do notice when having an awful lot of former and current Starch solutioners coming to my content here is there are many things Starch solutioners do wrong. Now, this is actually less about what Dr. McDougall actually advises and more so about how his followers can sometimes misapply and misinterpret the things he says, as is the case, of course, with any teacher. So in this video, I want to share the top 5 mistakes I see to make your life easier if you're following the Starch solution and to ensure that you get maximum results. Let's get into it. Mistake number 1, eating potato-based meals constantly. And what I really mean by constantly is having them at least multiple times per day. Now, of course, whether white or sweet potato, you already know Dr. McDougall is a massive advocate for potatoes, as am I, from both a health and well-being perspective, but certainly from a weight management perspective. You've heard me make the case before that potatoes are one of the most effective foods out there when it comes to losing weight. However, Dr. McDougall pays equally, if not more, homage to the likes of whole grains, to the likes of legumes, beans, peas, and lentils. He emphasizes certainly the legumes an awful lot. And I just wonder whether lots of starch solutioners out there necessarily have the diversity in food groups that Dr. McDougall actually recommends in the starch solution. If you search that hashtag starch solution on Instagram, I've observed this with my conversations, albeit anecdotal, with my conversations with current and former starch solutioners. I think there are a lot of folks in that space that are actually eating more potatoes than Dr. McDougall advises. In the starch solution book itself, flicking through the recipe section, I think there's a slight difference there in what people are actually doing when consuming potatoes versus what Dr. McDougall advises. Now, don't get me wrong. If your health is going in the right direction, if you're seeing the results you want and anticipate, eating lots of potatoes, eating potatoes multiple times per day is not a red flag in itself. However, what I would say is think about the displacement here. If you're eating all these potatoes, are you necessarily eating as many whole grains, as many legumes as Dr. McDougall advises? Do you necessarily have the nutrient diversity, the variety that will be optimal from a health and well-being perspective? Again, I'm the first to sing the praises of potatoes, but I like the idea of having a balanced diet, pulling equally from different, well, not necessarily equally, but pulling from different food groups to ensure that your nutrients, your recommended daily allowances, intake goals, are being met. And if you're only ever pulling from 1 or 2 food groups, there's far less chance that you're actually getting all the nutrients you need in the right quantities. Mistake number 2, not using many dressings or sauces. Now, if you're perfectly content with your starch solution meals as they are, having them merely with some herbs, spices, seasonings, and nothing in the way of a dressing, condiment, sauce, bit of salsa, low-fat hummus, etc., so on and so forth. This isn't a problem, of course. You do you continue if you're feeling satisfied. I just wonder whether some people are making this more bland than it actually needs to be, and McDougall offers a range of sauces and dressings in many of his recipes, and there are many other starch solution compliant teachers online. Tia, of course, from Healthy Vegan Mama, deserves a shout out here for her wonderful low-fat cheese sauce, which I'll link down below. She's got many other dressings as well. She has a cookbook just dedicated, to sauces and dressings, many of which are from my memory, starch solution compliant, I would argue. Many of my clients are having starch solution compliant vinaigrettes and sauces on their salads every day. And so you can find these things that are very starch solution compliant. And so I don't know whether it's fear of weight gain from a potentially calorie-rich sauce, or it's just the need to keep things simple that stops people adding sauces and dressings to their meals. But I do just wonder if they're making their food excessively or unnecessarily, I should say, bland and stale. And I just question the longevity of that. You need to play the game a little bit. You need to think about what you can adhere to. And if a squirt of ketchup, for example, something simple like a squirt of ketchup, even if it's a low sugar ketchup, on your baked potato makes you enjoy that baked potato meal, therefore that healthy meal, even more so, then for me it's a no-brainer to include some of those things. Now, mistake number 3 has a lot of overlap with mistake number 1, so I promise you I won't cover it for too long here, but I do feel it deserves special mention. And it's our friend the legume family again, but particularly beans, which Dr. McDougall places an awful lot of emphasis on. Again, though, when I talk to current starch solutioners, when I see photos of starch solution day of eatings meals online, I'll see meals such as I referenced earlier, a couple of potatoes on a plate, bit of broccoli, maybe a bit of sauce, if they're lucky, of some kind. And that's it. And I just think, my goodness, you're missing out on so much diversity by not including a serving of legumes there, whether it's beans, peas, lentils. These are nutrient-packed foods, whether that's as an essential source of protein, and I emphasize essential because if you're not having a bean or a bean derivative like tofu of some kind, you are going to have a very, very low protein diet. And of course, I don't wish to contribute to the endless amounts of protein scaremongering there are already out there when it comes to whole foods, plant-based diets, but protein is still an important macronutrient, so we don't want to completely sweep it under the rug, of course. It's not just the protein, amazing source of fiber and all the other nutrients that beans contain. So if you're not having that many beans right now, check back over McDougall's work. You'll be shocked. A lot of his stuff contains beans. Mistake number 4, avoiding fruit. Fruit I stack alongside vegetables as being one of the best food groups, certainly for weight loss, but also by extension for health and well-being as well. In terms of nourishment, in terms of their nutrient profile, a source of vitamins and minerals, fruit is utterly fantastic for you, very health promoting indeed. And I just wonder if there is unnecessary fear around fruit in some corners of the starch solution community. I could understand why, because Dr. McDougall does emphasize, and this is actually one of my minor criticisms of the starch solution, but Dr. McDougall does emphasize some caution around fruits for some folks, capping it for some of his patients at 3 servings per day. And I've argued that this is very, very inappropriate for some people, and like I say, this is one of my minor criticisms of the starch solution. That said, though, he still promotes fruit, and so the total avoidance of it, under the impression that the sugar contained within fruit in any way mirrors the sugar you'll find in fizzy drinks and ice cream, for example, and candy, sodas in candy, I think that is a terrible, terrible comparison to make. Very, very different. And context matters. The sugar contained in fruit is natural sugars that also comes with other great nutrients in the food, in the food that the natural sugars are contained, which in this case is fruit, because that's what we're talking about. And so you're also getting a whole dose of fiber and an amazing vitamin and mineral profile. Of course, that's not the same as drinking Coca-Cola, right? That's not the same as the refined sugar that's added to Coca-Cola. So context matters. Where does the sugar come from? And I also think as an outlet to those sweet cravings that we naturally have, I think to avoid fruit altogether, I think a massive mistake. Starch solution or not, I think a huge mistake. And lastly, mistake number 5. If you stay to the end, I'm grateful to you, and you're going to be rewarded with a bit of a curveball here, because it isn't actually nutrition related, but please hear me out in how it relates to the starch solution. It's this: not doing enough exercise. Now, my qualm here actually extends far beyond the great Dr. McDougall's work. I feel, generally speaking, in this plant-based community, we are so on this message of it's all about the nutrition. We're so on point with talking about nutrition, talking about the problems with having lots of animal products in one's diet, lots of junk foods in one's diet, that I think it's truly fair to say that exercise is a neglected topic in this community. And I just feel it doesn't get the respect it deserves sometimes. And this goes far beyond weight loss, because I'll be the first to say that you can lose weight in a calorie deficit doing no exercise. As long as you're in a calorie deficit, you'll lose weight. But when I think about my relationship with exercise and what exercise still continues to do to this day for me on a daily basis, and how it changes my life beyond physical health, but in terms of also mental health and well-being, I'm so grateful that even though I had many problems with food up until 6 or 7 years ago, I've always been, me and my brother grew up in a very, very sporty environment. We were always encouraged to do exercise. And me and my brother grew up playing every sport under the sun at different phases of time. Some stuff stuck, some stuff didn't. But I'm so grateful for always understanding and enjoying being active. And I think that goes way beyond the number on the scale as well. This extends across into health and well-being very generally. And I just wonder sometimes, when I read the Starch solution, when I watch Dr. McDougall's videos online, even though I'm on board, as I suggested earlier, with 97, 98% of it, I do wonder sometimes, is there enough emphasis here on fitness, on moving your body, on strength training, on having decent cardiovascular function because you're doing some aerobic exercise? And sadly, I think the answer is no in my book. So Starch Solution out there. Starch Solution is out there. Congratulations for cleaning up your diet. Hopefully the steps in this video can further enhance that. I also just want to leave you with this final battle cry. Get out there and move as well. Fix the nutrition. Also focus on the exercise, sleep by extension, of course, sleep, hydration, rest. Nutrition is a huge piece of the puzzle for health and well-being. We already know this. That's not rocket science. I'm not saying anything profound there. But there are other variables that contribute too. Hope this helps. If you found the information in this video helpful, but you need that next level of instruction, support, and accountability to number 1, lose weight, number 2, learn how to easily keep it off this time round, and number 3, create healthy habits for life, click the link below. I'll tell you more about how I've helped over 300 men and women lose 10, 20, 30 or more pounds with simple plant-based meals without having to count or track their calories and with gentle exercise only. Click the link below this video.